on TV, online and on your smartphone. This is Ticker News.
This episode of Talk Your Book is proudly brought to you by Honan, providing a complete range of insurance, risk and financial solutions.
Fundies called me up, told me to take a look, but stay stubborn as bulls and talk their own book. Get the money, get the money, get the money.
Hi, I'm Chris Judd and this is Talk Your Book, and today we're lucky to be joined by Hashan De Silva from KPRX Opportunities Fund. Hashan, congratulations on the new fund. Tell us about its investment mandate and why you've chosen to focus on Australian opportunities.
Great to meet you, Chris, and thanks for having me on. So just to give you a bit of background to myself, I went from med school to industry where I worked at Eli Lilly, and from there I moved into finance, working at Macquarie Bank CLSA, and then a fund called Cast Peak, which was investing across Asia Pacific. And while I was there, we did a lot of investing in Australia, and we actually had a pretty good period and a couple of large exits. And with that, the founder of Cast Peak turned Cast Peak into a family office and provided me with seed funding to start KPRX. So to give you a bit of kind of a reason why we're only focusing on Australia in this fund, is a lot of people probably don't know that we generate more healthcare patents per capita than any other country in the world. And on an absolute basis, we are somewhere around fifth in the world for the amount of healthcare IP that we generate. And yet, when you look at the availability of capital to fund our businesses, from kind of idea all the way to proof of concept and to really growing a global business within Australia, it's very, very limited. And so we've found that we've been able to invest in very late stage businesses, like Neuron as an example, for the equivalent of a pre-seed or seed valuation in the US. And so we think that the Australian market is a great investors market to find amazing IP and high quality companies and very attractive valuations, particularly in this market at the moment where we're coming out of one of the biggest downturns we've seen in healthcare valuations, I think ever. And
which stock did you want to speak about today?
So it's a stock called CurveBeam AI, the ticker CVB. It was one of the investments in Cast Peak's portfolio, and I'm a director of that company as well.
And is it unusual for you to become a director of the board of the companies you invest in, or is that part of the standard process?
It was less usual at Cast Peak because we had more of a kind of public markets tilt at Cast Peak. But going forward at KPRX, definitely not unusual. So KPRX's fund is mostly private. We say we have the ability to invest in the public, so up to 30% into public equities, but we will predominantly be a private market investor. And so we think, one thing we didn't discuss, Australia has this incredible IP, but one thing that we do lack is we don't have hundreds or dozens of companies that have done it before, that have developed drugs or devices that have exited. And so we find that we can add a lot of value by sitting on the boards of these companies or sitting on advisory boards and really assisting the management team taking the company from where it is to where it needs to get to. So going forward, you'll definitely see me, my team, and our venture partners sitting on boards.
And give us the 30,000 view of CurveBeam AI and what they do.
So CurveBeam AI is a medical device company based in Melbourne and Pennsylvania, and they've got a FDA approved, TGA approved, it's pretty much approved all around the world, weight-bearing CT device. So what that effectively means is the CT devices that everyone's familiar with is the big ones in a hospital where you lie down and they kind of drag you in and pull you out. Whereas this one, you get imaged while you're standing up. And the primary market for this product is orthopedic surgeons' clinics. And so for the standard way it works at the moment, when you see your orthopedic surgeon, they will see you initially, have an idea of what kind of testing that needs to be done, give you a referral, you go off to an imaging center, you get your image taken, you come back to the orthopedic clinic for further follow-up. Whereas what CurveBeam's device, the HiRise, allows you to do is actually be imaged in the orthopedic surgeon's center. And so instead of having to do multiple visits, so 3 visits, you can do everything in 1 visit. So as you see the orthopedic surgeon, you can be imaged in the orthopedic surgeon's clinic, then you can see the surgeon and the image is already ready to go on their computer. And so you only have to see the orthopedic surgeon once. From a patient outcomes perspective, when you're looking at kind of knee, hip, and foot and ankle conditions, the joint significantly different underweight than it is when you're lying down. And so we've got lots of images that we can show you where a person's knee looks perfectly normal when it's lying down, but when you put it underweight, that's when the pathology starts to become clear. And really, when you're looking at kind of total ankle replacements, total knee replacements, we've got lots of data now, like dozens and dozens of publications that show that a joint at weight leads to better, imaging a patient weight bearing leads to much better patient outcomes than doing a supine scan. Other benefits include that the radiation exposure is much less. So we're up to like 30% of a MD-CT scan. And also for the orthopedic surgeon, it's a revenue generating bit of kit. So instead of referring the patient out to an imaging center, the high-rise device is owned by the orthopedic surgeon, and the orthopedic surgeon can bill the insurance company or CMS for payment on one of these devices. So they actually become a highly profitable device for the orthopedic surgeon.
And I've seen in the presentations the quality of the images that the machines spit out, particularly in contrast to traditional CT scans. Is there a way for you to articulate just how far superior the images that the high-rise system spits out compared to traditional CT scans?
That's a good question, and so I guess it depends on what you define as superior, right? So the big CT scans that you're seeing inside hospital are designed to scan people's chest and abdomens. That's like most of what a CT scanner does inside hospital. So they're very, very powerful and have very high radiation exposure. Now you actually don't need that when you're doing hips, knees, and feet, and so we don't think that a patient needs to undergo that kind of radiation exposure just when they're in the orthopedic surgeon's clinics. Now, the other superiority, I think the correct way to measure superiority is diagnostic yield, right? Can you see what you need to see in that image in order to accurately be able to treat the patient? And for that, we've got plenty of published data to show that we're superior. And that comes for two reasons. First, most important reason is because the joint is in its normal physiological state, right? People don't walk around on their back, they walk around on their feet. And so that allows the physician to see what the joint looks like underweight and accurately diagnose the pathology. The other really important thing to notice here as well is the knee doesn't exist in isolation, right? The knee exists in alignment with the hip and in alignment with the other side. So when you're doing a total joint replacement, you need to be able to show that, let's say you're doing this joint as a replacement, that this joint aligns with the other joint, so you don't actually then cause a pathology in the contralateral limb. It's impossible to do that with the MD-CTs, the line downs, the supine CTs. And so we think we have a much higher diagnostic yield. But from a patient perspective as well, I mean, radiation to one side, if you go to an imaging center and there is an error in the image, it doesn't image the correct place, you move around, whatever it might be, you don't know that the image is wrong until you've gone and seen the surgeon. So the surgeon has to look at the image and be like, mate, you have to go back and do it again. Now, we don't have that problem with the high-rise because it's in the orthopedic surgeon's clinics. And so it's just a higher diagnostic yield.
And talk us through the unit economics of the high-rise system from CurveBeam AI's perspective. What are your margins and how much does it cost to manufacture?
We sell the device in the US so we have two models in the US. We sell direct, and we also sell through our partner, Stryker. So Stryker is, I believe, the world's largest orthopedics company. If not the largest, they're definitely top 2, top 3. And so the way that it works with them is they will go out, it's their sales force that sells it for us, and then we sell it through Stryker to the orthopedic surgeon, where Stryker keeps a little bit of the margin. In that setting, we sell for $410,000-ish US dollars, and our gross margin is between 50 to 55%. When we sell direct, we obviously keep Stryker's margin, so our gross margin is slightly higher, not hugely. The real benefit, though, for us selling through Stryker is so we have a partnership with their foot and ankle division. They've got 550 employees in the US out there selling orthopedic products to foot and ankle surgeons. When we were selling it by ourselves, we had 3 reps. So they're much higher share of voice that Stryker can give us. But the other really big benefit that Stryker provides us is they can actually bundle the high-rise in with all the other equipment that Stryker sell and be able to offer what's called these flex finance bundles. So effectively, a orthopedic surgeon can pay off the high rise by buying more consumables from Stryker. So entering a flex contract with Stryker to buy more ankle replacements, buy more screws and plates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so they can use the high rise to do these flex financing. And Stryker have been very profitable. They've done that very profitably with other products in hip and knee in particular. And so we're very kind of excited about what Stryker can do with us in foot and ankle.
And is it a one-off CapEx expense for the orthopaedic surgeons, albeit with some alternate ways to pay, or is there an ongoing recurring revenue component as well?
Yeah, so at the moment, we make all of our money from device sales. That is selling a device to an orthopedic surgeon. From us, we don't offer any financing, so they buy it directly from us, and it goes straight to our bottom line at the moment because we hold all the inventory in stock. Going forward, what the business model, so the equipment sales business model is exciting. It's a $10 billion TAM just in the US. But going forward, what really excites us as an investor is the AI-based SaaS modules that we're putting onto the high-rise. We recently had a publication. One of our AI-based SaaS modules is pre-op planning for foot and ankle conditions. And we had a publication published 500 patients that showed that our AI-based product is as accurate, but 97% faster than a surgeon doing it themselves. So what we're offering the surgeon effectively is we can do nearly all of your pre-op planning, we can measure all the angles, we can do all the segmentation and provide you with a plan ready to go. You don't have to do much. It is a big time saving. And so will be a revenue generating product when we get FDA approval for that. But the big one that we're really excited about is the BMD, the bone mineral density. So what that will allow the orthopedic surgeon to do in one scan, one visit, not only be able to image the patient and do your preoperative planning, but be able to also measure the quality of the patient's bone. And so you can then decide, do we need to treat the patient for osteoporosis before we do the surgery? Do we use cemented or non-cemented implants? It allows you to kind of really treat the patient holistically. It allows the orthopedic surgeon to what's been coined by the Orthopedic Surgeons Association in the US, own the bone. Right? So you no longer have to do multiple referrals. You can do that all with a high rise. And so the economics for us is quite lucrative. The reimbursement's already in place for BMD. It's about $140 on average in the US in different states. And we will have a model where we share the reimbursement with the doctor going forward. And so the economics effectively is that, for every 100 high rises placed, we think that's a $20 million recurring revenue for us at a 95% gross margin.
And in terms of, I know surgeons are already using robotics to complement their surgeries currently. As an aside, just your guesswork, how far away do you think we are from fully robotic surgeries?
Fully robotic surgery, I think we're quite, so technologically, I don't think we're that far away, but I think from a regulatory, insurance, patient adoption perspective, I think we're really, really far away. But I'll use the example of AI in diagnostic imaging, right? AI in diagnostic imaging right now arguably is as good as the radiologist, and some have argued that it's better than the radiologist. It's faster, it can diagnose things more accurately. Now, the issue that we have is the FDA considers ground truth to be what the radiologist sees in the image. Right? So the radiologist says there's X in the image, and the AI says it's Y. The FDA says no, the radiologist is right. Now the only way to prove that wrong is you have to effectively cut the patient open, right? How else can you see what's inside the patient if the imaging is saying one thing and is being interpreted different by two people? And so it's impossible to structure a clinical trial like that. It's not ethical. And so that is the big hurdle that we've gotten to for having fully automated AI reads of chest x-rays. Is not the technology, it's the regulatory hurdle.
What about from a perspective, could you see in the next 5 years an operation happening, say in Africa, completed by a surgeon who's actually in the US at the time? Is that sort of in an investable time frame, or even that's still too far out?
Yeah, so from a technological perspective, let's say a surgeon doing a surgery in Australia, because I'm not sure about the kind of infrastructure in Africa, but in Australia, it can happen today.
But that'd be an internet issue, if anything. That would be the issue, not the technology of the robots that would actually do the cutting and sewing. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. So just the lag time of the internet connection, and if the internet connection will drop in and out. Because right now the technology is there, you can do it right now today.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason why we don't do it today is that a surgeon trained in the US is not registered to practice medicine in Australia.
No.
Right? It's like,
it would be more appropriate for a third world country potentially to receive treatment from a first world surgeon. That would be the most logical initial phase, wouldn't it?
It would be, but the first world, I mean, the surgeons in the US are pretty busy.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of calendar.
Yeah.
So they are not, I mean, an example of this, right? We could have telehealth where the GP sits in the Philippines and services Australia, right? That can happen right now. Everything's already there, ready to go. But what is not there is obviously regulatory, and the AMA would be absolutely livid if something like that happened.
Yeah.
So it's not technology that's limiting us in this regard.
So we'll finish up in a moment, but before we do, let's just work through the numbers. What's the market cap of CurveBeam AI? What's their cash burn, and what sort of revenue are they doing now on an annualised basis?
Yeah, so we IPO'd, so we invested in CurveBeam in their Series B round in 2021, and then we did a IPO last year. So the CurveBeam's register includes us and 6 other institutional investors. So there's Firetrail, Acorn, and a bunch of others. And then board and management are the next largest shareholders. So the founder, Arun Singh, the CEO, Greg Brown, us on the board, I think we own another 30-ish%. So if you look at that, so 90% is owned by pretty sticky hands. So only really 10% of the stock is trading. And so what's happened when we IPO the company is it's been very, very liquid. And so that means a very, very small trade, $5,000 can move the stock 15%, and I've seen that happen. And so what we've seen is when we've IPO'd the company at 48 cents, the stock price has fallen to 20-ish cents that it sits today, really through no fault of the company, unfortunately. It's just been a dynamic of being listed on the ASX and being very liquid. But that presents a buying opportunity for new investors. The revenue we did in FY23 was 12.5 million from memory, and we've been able to grow our kind of what we call purchase orders or purchase devices quite strongly. And the latest quarter we had a pretty strong readout, and we also gave the number for the first month of Q4, which is also a strong readout. And so we're seeing revenue grow strongly. So not revenue, orders grow strongly. Where there's been a bit of disappointment is that, I think everyone thought Stryker would come out the gate a lot faster. We signed Stryker middle of last year as our partner in the US, and that's been a bit slow to come on board, which I think is what definitely what I thought was going to happen, but maybe we didn't communicate that well enough with the retail investors that were participating in the IPO. And what we're seeing Stryker really kind of coming into hitting their straps at the moment. And so it took them 6 months to learn how to sell this device, how to sell the capital equipment, how to bundle it in, how to work with other partners within Stryker. But now we're starting to see them hit their straps, particularly in this quarter. And we have another version of the high-rise that we're launching as well, which should be on the market in the coming months. And that's really designed to combat what we call the high BMI patients. So the current high-rise is powerful enough to measure patients that are probably up to BMI of 40. If you're 40 or higher, our X-ray tubes just aren't powerful enough in the current high-rise model. So we've developed another model with a more powerful X-ray device to do the CT scans of, and that's really important for robotic surgery in the hips, really. And when you do robotic surgery in the knee, you need to actually image the hips to align the knee and the hip in order to know what angle and what plane to put the hip implant in. So that's kind of where we're sitting at the moment. And so the future looks bright. We're hitting our straps with Stryker in the US, and us CurveBeam have really started to hit our straps in Europe. We had, I think, pretty strong sales in Europe last quarter, and we announced decent sales in Europe this quarter as well, and this quarter to date. And so I think we're really starting to see where we're going with our device sales model.
Thank you. Well, it's a fascinating story, Hashan. Thanks for sharing it with us, and congratulations on the launch of the new fund. Thanks for taking the time to come and talk your book.
Thanks for having me, Chris. It's been a pleasure.
And thanks to everyone who's tuned in. We'll be back to do it all again, same time next week.
You're watching Ticker. We'll have more in just a few minutes.